Hey, welcome to Tabletop Skirmish Games. I'm Lee, and in this video I'll be unboxing the GNOMISH Airship for Moonstone. In the previous video for Moonstone I unboxed the Goblin Airship, so now let's even things up for both sides as we look at the GNOMISH version. Another cool model for Moonstone. This time the Commonwealth are going to get some action in the skies, and I'll be adding this to my humans troop that I've built. And the artwork, again, fantastic. Here's the illustration, and I just love everything about Moonstone. Illustration, narrative, models, and when we saw the Goblin Airship last week fully built, we loved it. And so now it's going to be great to have the GNOMISH equivalent. So in the video, we'll get it all out. I'll go through all the sprues so you can see all the contents up close. I'll build the model so you can see it put together. Talk about magnetizing it as well and also basing it up. And then once we've done that, we'll go through the card, have a look at all the abilities, and then we'll be done. So let's get started. We'll get this one out of the box and you can have a really good close-up look. And hopefully this will help you decide whether or not you'd like to add it to your collection. So here it is. Inside you've got all the foam as standard, and this really protects that quality resin. The casting on the Moonstone miniatures is fantastic, but this one is next level. Wait until you see it when I get it out of the bag later on. But there we go, we're going to get our bag with all the bits in. We've got our stand and card, then all these foam pieces, which we don't need, so we'll just move those to the side. This one's great, you can tear it off, use it for stippling and painting, that kind of thing. That's all the contents then. I think we'll get this out and have a look at all the components first, and then you can have a good up look at that quality resin casting before we move on to building and looking at the card. So we got just the one bag with another bag inside, and now I thought the airship part of this would be a few pieces that you glue together, but you get all these small components and then one big chunky piece. But let's get everything out of the bag and then we can start having a close-up look. Here we are then. So this is the big bit. It's quite heavy, that. It's a big lump of resin for sure. But look how crisp it is. I mean, you can tell just by the font on the piece of sprue. But when you look at the model, it's just so smooth. That braiding of the rope that goes around it is just immaculate. I've got to say, these are probably the best sculpts out of any models that I've been showing here on the channel. I just think they're so clean and so well done. There's hardly any cleanup to do. The thing you do have to do though, once it's built, is give it a really good scrub with some hot soapy or warm soapy water so that the paint will stick to it properly. But otherwise, these are just so good, and it's like must be a really good quality resin. But yeah, look at that. I mean, there's the little gnome that's going to be guiding it, and then that'll fix underneath once we take that bit of sprue off. But yeah, I'm super impressed with this. I mean, every model I've been impressed with. I don't think there's one that hasn't been really crisp and well done, but this one is just next level. Look at that rope, got all the wood texture. Fantastic. Now there's no instructions with this, but I just go on the website, have a look, and it's so obvious where all the pieces go. There's hardly any components. Some of the models come in just one piece, you don't even have to glue them together. But when it does come time to glue, I use a super glue Loctite power gel, and I find that works really well. Here we've got some of the fins and that harpoon as well. That needs a little bit of a clean up. That's probably the messiest I've seen any, and that's hardly anything. But yeah, that won't take long. A little bit of trimming and scraping on there with the blade and we're good to go. But I'm just so impressed with that actual airship itself. Right, let's get the card out of this bag, if I can. Is it going to come out? No, I'm getting there. All right, okay. I'm always really careful not to damage these cards. But there we go. So we've got the stand inside. You've got these two pieces. They slot in together, and then that goes in one of the little holes. Not in the airship, actually. When I was doing the filming, I thought it was going to go into the airship, but it actually goes into the little gnome itself. And I'll probably use something else on the base like I talked about with the Goblin Airship. And thanks to Ernest for a great suggestion of putting a piece of like a log or something there. That's going to look awesome with some shrooms around it. Here's the base. So we've got the 40mm base, and then this is 25 or 30mm, depending on where you measure it from. But like I said, I'll probably get rid of that piece and just actually have the stand. I might even get a taller stand just for effect. I'm not sure yet. I'll have to wait and see. But altogether, the model itself is 50mm across. And again, big chunky piece that. So we'd certainly have to get a good strong magnet to hold that in place later on. Now, you don't have to use a magnet. That's just the option I like to go for transporting and things. Here's the card then, and I'll go through that later on. I'll bring it up on the screen and get in there close and go through each of the abilities. But what I like to do, as soon as I get these cards, I grab my clear classic Dragon Shield protectors, 88 by 63mm. I'll link down below to that if you want to get hold of some. Really cheap, really good stuff. And then I put the card straight in there, and then I know that's protected then, and that's going to be looked after. Pop it in a card case as well, and then you're good to go. So there it is. That's all nice and safe now. Alright, we've had a look at everything now, so I'll go away, get this built really quick, and then you can have a real good close-up look at the model all assembled. Here it is then, and you know what, I've just popped the stand in the little hole, and it stands there on its own without needing to be glued in. If you did glue it though, you'd have to put something else in, but this is the finished piece. I love it. It's fantastic. Another great looking model, totally different to the Goblin airship, and I think it's got so much great detail on it. It's going to look awesome all painted up. Might be tricky doing those ropes, I have to figure that out, but yeah, I'm going to take my time with this one for sure. But let's grab that stand, and you can see the little hole there underneath the gnome, and then that would go in there in place. There's a little bit of give there, it's not a tight fit, and so you'd have to fill it with something milliput or something if you did glue it. But for me, I think a magnet is going to work a treat. But as it is, it does stand on its own. You can see it's well balanced as well, even with the weight of that airship piece. So yeah, you want to fill that hole in if you are going to glue it. But I'm going down the magnet route, because I think that's going to work really well with this. I'll grab one of my Space Marine models here so you can see how I did it. So here's the stand that they come in, a little bit taller. And I get the magnet, and then I glue that on with super glue, pop a magnet in the model itself. I drill a hole a little bit in there so it goes in and is hidden, and then I can store the model for transport, pop it on the stand when I'm there, and you know, that's pretty secure. That magnet's not big by any means, but it's nice and strong and it holds it in place. Obviously if you really shook it, it's going to come off, but you can see if you just knock it, it's going to stay in place. The airship's a little bit heavier, so I might go a bit stronger, but the brand of magnets I like to go for, all these first 4 magnets, they come in all shapes and sizes. I've got a good variety for all different projects, but that's what I'll be using. I'll put a link for this down below too. But there we go. That's how I'm going to do it later on. I'll do the Gnomish airship and the Goblin airship together. Look, I dropped that. I should have waited a little bit longer because that glue hadn't quite set. I was being too eager to get the video done. But let's pop that back in. That's going to set, no problem. But there we are. Yeah, you got to be careful with these. They are fine, some of the models. And so I like to magnetize them on their bases usually, so when I transport them, they're in one of the really useful boxes with a magnetic base. But for this one, I would be transporting it off the base and putting it probably in some foam. But that's the model all built. Now let's have a look at the card. Signature move for this one, so we're only going to be looking at one side of the card today, and we'll start here then with the Gnomish airship. You've got gnome, machine and militia as the key words, and then for the stat line, the melee, we've got a dash and range a dash, so this can't get involved in melee as a flying machine. The arcane is 3 and the evade is +1, certainly not going to be quick to get out of the way as it's floating around the battlefield. The first passive ability is up, up and away, and it tells us that this character may move freely over all terrain and other models during jog and step actions, provided it does not end the move with the base overlapping another model or barrier terrain. It cannot take the harvest action or the melee attack action, cannot be targeted by melee attack actions either, and does not engage enemy models or become engaged by enemy models. It doesn't block line of sight, provide cover, or suffer from falling. When targeted by arcane actions, this character does not benefit from cover either. So it is a target, it's floating around, but if you can stay out of range, you're going to be alright with this one. But then you are going to want to get in range to use some of the awesome abilities that we're going to look at next. With no melee getting involved here, you definitely want to use this as fire support, and it's not going to be able to carry or harvest moonstones, but you can zip around, get over that terrain really easily, fly above the enemy, get into some nice positions, and get some sneaky shots off at the enemy. So I think it's just the fun factor's high on this model. Practically, I'm not sure how it'll play, we'll wait and see. Let's have a look at another ability then. This is Reload, Bolt Thrower. This is 2 actions. The named ability can be used again. We'll have a look at Bolt Thrower next. Hopefully it's going to be quite powerful for that 2 energy reload there. So yeah, let's have a look. Bolt Thrower. This is going to cost you 1 energy and it's a 10-inch range. It says you can only do it once per game unless it's reloaded. And this attack is not modified by cover. So you're looking for a green card here, any number, and the target suffers X plus 2 piercing damage. Then it's moved 1 inch directly away. The catastrophe is that this model suffers 2 wounds, and this action cannot be used for the remainder of the game. Bit like Flintlock there with that. Now if you reload you can use it again, but that'll cost you 3 energy for the reload and for firing it in the first place, and you can see you've only got 3 energy, so you're certainly going to look to buff this one up and get more energy before you activate it. And if you can do that, you're going to get a couple of shots in that activation, and that's pretty powerful. X+2 is really good. Here's another fun one. I was looking forward to seeing what those bombs would do once I glued them on, but this is called Dropping Bombs, 2 energy, and it's a 2-inch pulse. You're looking for green again, any number. All other models within the pulse suffer X+1 magical damage, then they're moved X directly away. The catastrophe's pretty big though, so if you bluff and get caught, this model will suffer 4 wounds altogether. But a really fun ability. That's awesome. I can't wait to try this one out. I actually like the sound of these abilities, probably better than the Goblin Airship, even though I love the Goblin Airship as far as looks go a lot more than this one. I think the abilities are pretty cool. I don't see why we couldn't do a little swap though and play these rules with the Goblin Airship maybe. No harm in proxying, what do you think? Let me know down below. But there we go, there's some really cool abilities then. Now let's have a look at the health altogether. There's 8, and you'll notice the energy is right down the bottom, 3 energy, and so you can take 5 wounds without losing any of those energy points too. That's really nice. I like models that have that stacked towards the left side, so he's going to be pretty resilient, this airship. And then the base is a 40mm base, that's the black base. And then, yeah, I'll be doing something similar to what they've done here. Got to get those shrooms on the base as well. Let's flip the card over anyway, and you'll see there's no signature move because this one cannot take part in melee. There we go, that's the GNOMISH Airship. We've had a good look at the card and abilities, you've seen the model built, and now hopefully this will give you a good idea about what to expect, and you can decide whether or not to add it to your collection now. But I think it's a really fun model. I think the gnomes are probably a direction I want to go in at some point, and you can use it with the humans too. It's a Commonwealth miniature, so it's certainly going to get a lot of use. If you want to check out that Goblin Airship, I've unboxed that on the channel too, and I've done loads of videos for Moonstone now. I think we're up to 30, and we've gone through how to play with a full how to play video. I've done a demo game, gone through reviews of the book as well, the main rule book, still got the narrative book to go through. I've shown you the tree folk built and painted Beaky Bobby. One of my favourite miniatures was the unbox and build of the 2-headed giant, Dim and Dimmer, fantastic model. Even got a sneak peek at one of the Shades one, Rory. That was really fun, enjoyed that. But hopefully you've enjoyed this video, and if you did, it'd be great if you hit the like button, subscribe for more videos like this one, and I look forward to seeing you next time on Tabletop Skirmish Games. Thank you so much to my Patreon supporters for helping me to keep going with these regular videos. I couldn't do this without you, and I appreciate your support so much. If you'd like to join the Patreon community, support the channel, get some great perks at the same time, there's a link down below in the description. It'll be awesome to see you there.